What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to do a comparison of the DX9 Dragstrip with the FansToys Smokey, both versions of Dragstrip. So we did review both of these recently, and I just wanted to do a comparison. I did do a comparison of the X-Transbots. These two are a lot closer in size and just overall, attempt at a Dragstrip. So I figured this would be, another fun comparison to do. As I always say with these comparisons, this is mostly my opinion. I try to be as objective as possible. Of course, there's subjectivity involved when you're judging something like this, and this is no exception. So if I pick one or the other and you prefer the other one, then you win. With that being said, we are going to get into the comparison, and we'll start off with accessories. So here are the accessories for both figures. They both come with a gun. Strangely, the DX9 gun is actually smaller, even though the figure is bigger, but they both get a gun, and then this is what you're left with. So very obvious here, FansToys, has extra face. They've got the driver, and then they got a second gun. So easy win here for FansToys on accessories. All right, next we'll talk about the cartoon accuracy. In order to do that, we'll put the GM1 cartoon there for you to compare. And while I really do like the look of the FansToys, I think the lack of a color breakup, which they have on the cartoon, really makes the DX9 look closer. There are some things that are a little off for me, like the placement of this engine should be a little bit lower versus, above on his chest. The placement of these wheels, the wheels should be angled backwards, kind of like this. But even with that, I still think the colors and the look overall of the DX9 are much closer to the cartoon than the FansToys. FansToys does have a two-tone. If you can see, this yellow here is darker. It's just hard to show up on camera. But overall, because of the coloration and the overall look, I'm going to give cartoon accuracy to DX9. Next, we'll talk about the sculpt. And the sculpt on these, FansToys generally tends to just nail sculpt on their figures. And this is no exception. I think overall, just all around, they have a very, very good sculpt and good proportions on their figure. One of the things that bother me about the DX9 is the hands are just so oddly proportioned and then placed in a very weird location. They're just not centered, and that makes it look even more oddly proportioned. The other thing that's a little strange is the placement of the knee. You can see they are both about the same height, but the knee on DX9 is, half-inch higher. And that's what makes his legs just a little bit awkward, especially when you bend them. It's fine when it's straight, but when you start bending them, it just gives them a weird look. So because of that, his proportions and his sculpt are a little bit off for me, and especially including the placement of the chest, I think that's just a little bit off for me. So we're going to give sculpt to FansToys. Next, we'll talk about the paint on these figures. And the FansToys, in this case, yet again, is fully painted all the way through. Everything on this figure is painted. The DX9 is painted in some spots, but not everything. So the feet here, the knees, this waist piece here, this entire chest piece, parts of this are painted, not the whole thing, but at least this upper part here. On the back, just the arms here, the copper and red and black are all painted. But the rest of the figure is unpainted. The head is also fully painted. The other parts you see are just a colored plastic. The paint quality is actually much better than they've had in the past compared to, for example, their version of Breakdown that had a very poor quality. This is a pretty good quality paint. But because the FansToys has not only more paint, but a good quality paint all throughout, and haven't had any issues with it, we're going to give paint to FansToys. Next, we're going to talk about the build on these figures. They do take different approaches. The FansToys tends to have more die cast in the knees and the elbows and in some of the hardware, and just heavier overall, whereas the DX9 is mostly plastic, if not all plastic. But that doesn't mean that die cast is better. So both of these figures stand up to transformation very well. They both feel sturdy in hand. They're solid. They both feel like they're going to last as you transform them. So for me personally, I think they are pretty much tied when it comes to build. I haven't had any problems with either one of them. They're both robust. Now, if you like the feel of diecast, you're going to like the FansToys because it's a little bit heavier. But for this comparison, it's going to be a tie since they both don't have any issues. Next, we're going to go over articulation. And to do that, we'll go one by one through each figure. So DX9, the head is on a ball joint, rotates all the way around, goes down to there, up to there. Rotation on the shoulder joint, also a joint here, gets you up to there. You have a rotation at the bicep, and then you have a rotation at the elbow as well. You get a 90-degree bend at the elbow, rotation at the wrist, and then single pin for the fingers, but the pointer finger is separate, so you can get the pointer finger, although you can't really point it because it's bent like that. Rotation at the waist. Ab crunch gets you all the way up to there. You have a hip skirt here that folds up, allows the leg to go up to there, back to there, out to there. Rotation at the thigh. It does break up the sculpt, but it does rotate here at the mid-thigh. Single jointed knee gets you 90 degrees. Full ankle tilt all the way out, and a toe tilt here if you need it. So there's the DX9. Now let's go over the FansToys. FansToys also head on the ball joint, goes up to there, down to there, and rotates around. Although a little bit limited, it tends to get stuck rotating around. Rotation at the shoulder. That same joint, although this one's ratcheted, you can get that elbow or the shoulder up. Rotation at the bicep. Single jointed elbow gets you 90 degrees. Rotation at the hand. Individually articulated fingers. And I always like these FansToys hands. Rotation at the waist. No ab crunch on this guy, unfortunately. Legs go up to there, back to there, out to there. Again, all on friction. Rotation at the thigh. Although it's a little bit less than the DX9, I like the way they did it here just because you don't see the cut. But you do have more articulation on the DX9. 90-degree bend at the knee. Ankle tilt goes out to there, and you can still get that toe tilt if you want to detach it from here. So the DX9 just edges out FansToys on articulation because of the extra articulation in the arm and the extra articulation in the legs and the ab crunch. We're going to give DX9 the articulation. Next, we're going to talk about the engineering and transformation on these guys. So they both have a pretty good transformation, pretty rewarding, nothing too irritating to do. But one thing that I wanted to talk about is the fact that the FansToys has a equal-sized robot mode, but a smaller car mode. That mass shifting that they tend to be able to do, it really is a feat of engineering, and that's why for me, the FansToys engineering is just amazing. It really blows your mind when they're able to do that. One thing I want to show is the size of these guys. So here's the Takara Tomy Blue Streak. Obviously, they tower over him, and a lot of fans say, hey, these guys are too big. Well, let me put the G1 cartoon, actually the Sunbow cartoon chart there, and you can see they are supposed to be bigger than the standard Autobot car, but where DX9 kind of lets us down is the vehicle mode also is bigger than the Autobot cars, which shouldn't be, right? They should be about the same size. They're both cars. So that's why I'm going to give engineering to FansToys. I think they just nail that mass shifting. When it comes to transformation, however, they're both pretty rewarding and fun, and not too nothing really stands in the way. They both seem to stand up to the transformation just fine. So we're going to give them a tie for transformation, and we'll give FansToys engineering. So there they are in their alt modes, and very different takes on a drag strip. You can see the color scheme here, much different. You do have the advantage here on the FansToys accessories look a lot better with that driver and these guns in symmetrical because there's two of them, whereas the DX9 is just kind of mounted on the side. But with that being said, we already gave accessories to FansToys. What I really like about the look of the DX9 vehicle is the contrast and the breakup. Right? All these different colors, it really does make for an attractive and eye-catching look. The fact that the goldish brown and the yellow here contrast, and then the black wheels, that really makes for a nice look in the vehicle mode. It's also much more solid, although you do have the visible head syndrome. I wish they had a driver just to cover this up, a faux, or even just a faux piece would be fine. But the vehicle overall is very nice, very solid. They're both solid. This is a lot better than the X-Transbots vehicle. It doesn't feel as flimsy, and it looks really good. So I'm going to give the alt mode to DX9. I just think they did a good job with this vehicle mode. It does feel a little bit big, just for comparison. Here is the Transform Elements version of Mirage, and obviously the DX9 is a little bit big when trying to fit it in with the Masterpiece scale. But regardless of that, I'm going to give DX9 the vehicle mode. I just think overall it's a better looking vehicle, more like the G1 cartoon, and just more in keeping with what this vehicle should look like. And the final factor on these two is the cost. I used the cost off of Toy Dojo, the retail price, not the aftermarket, not the Chinese, just the Toy Dojo retail price. FansToys comes in $130 retail. DX9 comes in at $100 retail. So DX9 is going to win that cost. So final thoughts on these two. You can see the score there, and they tie. So I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't sure what to expect from this DX9 figure. After looking at the breakdown, I was a little bit disappointed with that one. But this one's pretty good. I really like certain things about it. For my personal collection, I prefer the FansToys. But one thing and one reason why people might actually get this is the combined mode. I didn't really talk about the combined mode. The DX9 does separate similar to the way the X-Transbots worked. So it basically just slides here in the middle. And then you can imagine the rest, you got the front part of the car and the back part of the car. And that's what you get. So similar to the X-Transbots, it's got that same gimmick, whereas the FansToys, the one-piece mode, I don't know how either of these final combined modes look, but I would imagine a lot of people seem to be very happy with the DX9 Menasor. So if you're looking for a big, solid, good, fairly good-looking Menasor, and you don't want to wait until FansToys finishes, which we actually don't know when they're going to finish. Hopefully we get their dead end soon. Then this is a pretty good set, and I think you might be happy with it, especially this figure in particular. I think they did a pretty good job. So that's really it for the comparison. Of course, you have to choose what fits in your collection. For me personally, I'm picking the FansToys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.